Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Noon.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Nicole Gitsky. Well, we're now learning the name of a woman found dead in a burning home in Ridgecrest, plus gruesome new details about how she died. The Kern County coroner says Vicki Smith was killed at a home on East Cottonwood Drive near Ridgecrest Boulevard back on June 30th. The coroner says her throat was cut. Firefighters found her body when they responded to a fire at the home. Police arrested 57-year-old George Smith Jr. for her death. He pleaded not guilty in court last week. He's due back in court later this month. Well, new at noon, detectives are investigating a shooting in South Bakersfield. According to officers, one person was wounded at the home on Morin Court off of the corner of Wilson Road and Weibel. That person was taken to the hospital where they're expected to be okay. Right now, police have not released any suspect information. The investigation is ongoing. And the violence continues in McFarland after a drive-by overnight. It happened just before midnight on A Street. Police say a person was walking in an alley when a car pulled up and someone opened fire. It's not clear how many people were in the car, but several shots were fired. The car drove off. When police arrived, they found a person shot, but say they were uncooperative and didn't want medical attention. Now call McFarland PD if you have any information. And new at noon, one person was hurt in a car accident overnight. That happened at Pacheco Road and South Union Avenue just before 1 a.m. The CHP traffic page shows that the Chevy truck and an SUV were involved in the accident. One of those cars hit a light pole head-on. Northbound lanes in the area were blocked for some time before the cars were towed away. The driver of the SUV was hurt in the accident and was taken to Kern Medical Center with minor injuries. Well, now to the latest on COVID-19. Another huge jump reported by Kern Public Health. Now, the department reports 216 new cases today. 8 more people have died from the novel virus. Our death toll in Kern now stands at 97. Since early March, we've had over 6,200 cases. Right now, 138 people are isolated in local hospitals. Over 1,800 are self-quarantined at home. Over 4,000 people have recovered from the virus. Well, a state assemblyman who represents a swath of southern Kern County is in the hospital after testing positive for COVID-19. Republican Tom Lakey of Palmdale says he is receiving treatment at Palmdale Regional Medical Center. Lakey represents California's 36th Assembly District, which includes Rosamond, California City, and Edwards Air Force Base. The announcement comes as the California state legislature pushed back the date for lawmakers to return to Sacramento to late July 27th. Lakey is one of the 2 state lawmakers to come down with the virus, but his chief of staff says the 3-term assemblyman is receiving excellent treatment and is expected to make a full recovery. And local nursing facilities are still a concern for county officials. At least 31 of the people who have died so far were nursing home residents. That makes up about a third of all county COVID deaths. Public Health says there are 19 state-regulated facilities in Kern, and 14 of them have reported coronavirus cases. The county has been visiting these facilities to test employees and residents and to make sure staff are taking the right steps to reduce the spread of the virus. The facilities also have to develop plans to protect residents and staff, and Constantine said state regulators will visit those facilities with county officials once those plans are submitted. The memorial for 13-year-old Patricia Alatorre continues to grow in South Bakersfield. For the 4th straight night, people have gathered near the corner of Granite Peak and Crescent Ridge to remember the teen whose brutal murder has stunned and saddened the community. The Alatorre family says it will hold a vigil for Patricia each night until she is laid to rest. Alatorre went missing last week. Police have not confirmed if her body has been found. The man accused of killing her, Armando Cruz, pleaded not guilty to a dozen charges on Monday. Investigators say Cruz traveled from Los Angeles to meet Patricia after they connected on social media, then killed her and tried to hide her body. The family has a GoFundMe to raise money for the funeral and to help Patricia's father travel from Mexico to see her before she's laid to rest. They've raised $40,000 so far. Local car clubs are planning to an event this weekend to help raise money for the Alatorre family. Organizers are hosting a cruise because Patricia Alatorre was a fan of cars. Organizers say they will collect donations for the family at Mesa Morin Ballpark. The cruise will start at the park at 7:30 Sunday evening and end up at the corner of Granite Peak and Crescent Ridge Streets in South Bakersfield. Well, a man who skipped his sentencing for a crash that disabled a young woman is still on the run. The district attorney's office has a warrant out for 34-year-old Esteban Gutierrez. It's been over 3 years since the crash. Prosecutors say Gutierrez was driving drunk and ran a red light on Callaway Drive, hitting a car driven by 23-year-old Jordan Bacon. She can no longer speak, walk, or care for herself. Investigators say Gutierrez ran away from the crash but was arrested. This year, he pleaded no contest. He was released on bail, but never showed up for his sentencing in May. Now, here's another look at Esteban Gutierrez. He originally faced 12 years as part of a plea agreement. If you've seen this man, call 911. And the death of an inmate at Wasco State Prison is being investigated as a homicide. State prison officials say 33-year-old Jose Mendoza was attacked by 2 other inmates Wednesday night. Officials say the inmates hit Mendoza with their fists, and during the attack, Mendoza fell, hit his head, and lost consciousness. He died less than an hour later. The 2 inmates are identified as 23-year-old Jose Carrera and 24-year-old Eric Sabez. Mendoza was serving a 16-month sentence for possession of a firearm by a felon or addict. And now for the latest on a brush fire that continues to burn east of Bakersfield. That so-called flat fire has burned 40 acres near Highway 58 off Clear Creek Road and Hart Flat Road. At one point, nearly a dozen homes were threatened.
When firefighters arrived on scene, they were able to establish that there were approximately 2 to 3 homes that were in immediate risk to catching on fire, and other multiple homes that were at significant threat as well.
Firefighters were able to save those homes. Kern County Fire says the fire is 40% contained. Firefighters were on scene throughout the night. Saturday is graduation day for Bakersfield College students. While students won't be able to walk across the stage due to COVID-19, you will be able to see their faces right here on KGET. We teamed up with Bakersfield College to host this year's 106th commencement. We will celebrate more than 700 students and highlight several programs BC has to offer. There will also be special guest speakers. We will broadcast the commencement on TV 17 this Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 o'clock. We'll also be live streaming the event on our KGET Facebook page. The program will also air on our Telemundo sister station from 7 p.m. to 9 o'clock. All right, Kevin, we are looking at some triple-digit heat. How long can we expect that to stick around?
Well, at least through the weekend into next week, we're definitely going to be hot out there. We're already into the 90s around Kern County. Bakersfield sitting at 93 degrees right now, and you can see to the side, the hour by hour, it is going to get a little hot this afternoon. We should be right around 97 this time of year in Bakersfield, so we will be above that. Our record of 113 set back in 1905, and here's a look at temperatures, and we're in the 90s all around. 91 in Buttonwillow, Shafter the same, 95 out in Arvin, and then into the mountains, we've got 86 in Tehachapi and already 95 in Ridgecrest. Here's a look at the daytime highs, 102 in Sacramento, 104 in Fresno. You travel east, we're looking at 110 in Vegas, so anybody who's headed that direction is going to be cooking, and we've got 111 in Phoenix. Here's a look at the Pacific, and high pressure is our dominant feature right now, positioned just over Arizona, near New Mexico, and that heat expanded west, and that's why we will continue to see those triple-digit temperatures the next few days. Here's a look at the watches and warnings. We have the heat advisory for the valley locations. We have an excessive heat watch for the Kern Desert areas, and then just to the east of us there, we have the excessive heat warning. So a few warnings that we're looking at because of the extreme heat. And Futurecast HD doesn't show anything heading our way anytime soon. We remain clear. Any time of storm activity will ride well up to the north into parts of Canada. And our air quality is also not in good shape because of this high pressure ridge over us. It'll be unhealthy for sensitive groups today. Your AQI at 122, your UV index high at 11. So make sure if you're going to be out in the heat, you have the sunscreen. Here's a look at the highs today. 103 in Bakersfield, McFarland, 104 in Delano. We're looking at 100 out in Taft for the mountains in the Kern River Valley. A warm day with a light wind out of the northwest 5 to 10, 90 in Frazier Park. Tehachapi, you're in the 90s with 92, and then you can see into the Kern River Valley, Lake Isabella near 100. Out in the desert, Ridgecrest hot today at 107, 102 in California City. And here's a look at the extended forecast, and you can see tomorrow 106 along with Sunday, 105 by Monday, and then next Wednesday, Thursday, we'll bring it down a little bit, right near 101. As we take a look at the mountain forecast, we're looking at 90s for at least Monday, and then Tuesday, we're back into those 80s. So that's some good news to look forward to. And then for the Kern River Valley, triple digits through at least Monday for you. And then we'll be back into the upper 90s as we head into Tuesday. That's a look at your forecast. Nicole, everybody needs to stay cool out there.
Well, 4 months after schools closed across the country because of coronavirus, fall classes are set to start in just a few weeks. School districts nationwide are now scrambling to come up with a plan to reopen safely. CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield saying in a CNN coronavirus town hall Thursday night that they stand by their original guidance on reopening schools. CNN's Brianna Golodryga has more.
I think there's commonality in the schools and the school leadership and the teachers and the administrators that we all want to protect the safety of the children that are in schools.
The CDC director on CNN's coronavirus town hall, attempting to clear up the mass confusion caused by the president's shocking threat to withhold federal funding for schools that do not fully reopen, something he does not have the legal authority to do on his own, as well as his rebuke of the CDC guidelines.
We stand by our guidance. We think it's an important strategy for helping these schools reopen.
For months, school districts nationwide have been scrambling, trying to figure out just how to reopen safely, as the acting superintendent of the Houston Independent School District showed CNN back in May.
So if you think about students per table, possibly 2 students per table, or it might even turn into 1 student per table, as we think about having just about 11 students in a classroom at a time.
Since then, more districts have announced similar plans. Most recently, Mayor Bill de Blasio telling New York City's more than 1 million public school students they should plan to only spend 1 to 3 days a week inside a classroom. The other school days will be held online.
At some points in the week, you're learning in person in the classroom. At other points in the week, you're learning remotely.
Local officials have relied on guidelines issued by state and federal health authorities as well as the CDC. One of its top recommendations has been to maintain social distancing among students. The hybrid model, where children would be divided into smaller groups, rotating hours and days in class, seems to be among the most feasible. But after months of inaction, the Trump administration is now pushing hard for schools to reopen full-time in the fall. An endeavor made even more challenging as numerous states continue to see spikes in cases. In Florida, the Education Commissioner issued an emergency order this week requiring all schools to open at least 5 days per week for all students.
If you can do Home Depot, if you can do Walmart, if you can do these things, we absolutely can do the schools.
But some educators in the state are now saying they won't follow the order if cases don't start to go down.
I think it would be counterintuitive. With positivity cases increasing, with restaurants just this week being shut down again, for us to pack up schools.
In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott said schools would have to offer more flexibility. In Arizona, Governor Doug Ducey announced that in-person classes will be delayed until at least August 17th. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom saying that schools will reopen when the data says it's safe to do so. Experts say it didn't have to be this frustrating, but there still is time to get it right.
The time to plan is absolutely right now. In particular, when we think about healthy building strategies, schools have to be paying attention to and looking at their mechanical and ventilation systems right now. This is not something that can be started in early August.
In your 17 Health Watch, the World Health Organization now says airborne transmissions of coronavirus is possible in certain circumstances. In the new scientific report, the HWO says it has reviewed evidence on reported outbreaks in some closed settings. This includes restaurants, nightclubs, or during choir practice, where people may be talking or singing. The agency says in these outbreaks, aerosol transmission cannot be ruled out. However, the WHO says more research is needed to investigate such instances and access their significance for transmission of COVID-19. Previous guidance only acknowledged airborne transmission of the virus during specific medical procedures. Earlier this week, more than 200 scientists signed an open letter urging the agency to update its guidance to include aerosol transmission from smaller particles. Ivy League schools are postponing sports until the 2021 spring semester, and now Big Ten teams will only play conference games. The Power 5 Conference announced the decision Thursday as COVID-19 cases across the country rise. In its statement, Big Ten leadership outlined the reason as a way to give the conference flexibility for rescheduling and canceling games during the season. Impacted sports include football, men's and women's soccer, field hockey, and women's volleyball. As far as preparations for the upcoming seasons, summer athletic activities will continue to be voluntary, and student athletes who decided not to participate will not lose their scholarships. The decision already has some major impacts for teams not in the Big Ten. The football matchups between Ohio State and Oregon and Michigan at Washington are both canceled. And the California Community College Athletic Association approved a plan to move all sports seasons to the spring of 2021. The move was made Thursday, and it comes after spikes in COVID-19 cases across the state. The plan is to have all sports start their seasons in the spring. However, the season will only resume in January if it is safe to do so. All sports will also have a decreased number of tournaments and competitions. The CCCAA covers 110 community colleges and represents 24,000 athletes. The Bakersfield College is including in the CCCAA. Taking a look ahead, students are heading back to school in a couple of weeks. A free back-to-school drive-up event is making sure they're prepared for the classroom. Now, children will receive backpacks filled with essentials, dental kits, food and snacks, and immunizations. Your child must be present and everyone must wear a face covering. The event is in a couple of weeks, so mark your calendar for August 7th from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The drive-up will be at Blessing Corner on 101 Union Avenue. Well, if you've got hazardous waste you need to get rid of, you're in luck. Next Saturday, you can turn in up to 125 pounds of waste. That includes things like batteries, paint, motor oil, and pool chemicals. Collection is happening from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can make multiple trips if you've got a lot of stuff to get rid of. The only thing you can't give to the collection is business waste. And a local driving group is helping to empower veterans through scuba diving, and you can take part too. Aquanut Divers is holding a fundraiser this weekend. For just $25, you can don scuba gear and learn how to take an underwater dive. It's this Saturday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Bakersfield Roquette Club. Now, proceeds go towards the Veterans Empowered Through Scuba Project, or VETS, which gives disabled veterans free scuba diving training. Aquanut Divers says the program encourages camaraderie and helps them reintegrate into civilian life. Well, you can give the gift of life. The 4th annual Trice Harvey Memorial Blood Drive is happening tomorrow. Houchin Community Blood Bank and the Rosedale Lions Club are teaming up to host the event. Trice Harvey was a supervisor and assemblyman for Kern County, along with donating 26 gallons of blood. Right now, the blood bank is in dire need of blood. You can donate at Houchin's Bolthouse Donor Center at 11515 Bolthouse Drive from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Now, for more information, visit hcbb.com. Well, don't expect a free Slurpee tomorrow. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, 7-Eleven's Free Slurpee Day has been canceled. The nation's largest convenience store chain canceled its in-store birthday celebration amid COVID-19 concerns. According to 7-Eleven, the annual day brings in millions of visitors, making it the company's busiest day of the year. Well, good news, though, 7-Eleven isn't entirely canceling free Slurpees. To help with social distancing, members of the 7 Rewards loyalty program will get a coupon for a free Slurpee sometime in July.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Noon.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to KGET.com.